Hey everyone, Chris Carter here from the Locked On Steelers podcast. We've got Nick Farabaugh on after week 2 of OTAs kicked off. Yes, the Steelers could be bringing in Gabe Davis, wide receiver, but I think there's a bigger story going on. That's Minkah Fitzpatrick and his approach after we talked to him on Tuesday. Check it out here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you hit on your first bet of $5 or more. More on them later. As I said before, we're joined by the man himself, Nick Farabaugh. He's back on this show from PennLive.com. He covers the Steelers there. Nick, we're gonna get to Gabe Davis. The Steelers are bringing him in Thursday. That's gonna be a thing. We've been talking about wide receivers, but I want to lead about Minkah Fitzpatrick because we finished the last show with Alan yesterday talking about Minkah Fitzpatrick, and then he just so happened to talk today. Now, in talking about Minkah Fitzpatrick, Nick, we had a fan call who was asking, hey, should the Steelers trade Minkah Fitzpatrick? You know, what kind of return he would get? And our answer both collectively was just no. I think Minkah Fitzpatrick's too valuable to this team. I know he's only had one interception in the last 2 years, and you want that to improve. But I still think he has great value to this team, and I do think there's a chance that he could still be that first-team All-Pro safety this year if a couple things go right. What say you about Minkah Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, I mean, they got to see it happen, right? I mean, You're paying that top price for not just really good safety play, but elite turnover and ball production. So I think that's the big thing with him. But obviously, I think still a very good player. He's become one of the best tackling safeties in the NFL, which was his weak point 2 years ago. You remember that, Chris? Whatever.
Yeah.
Talk about him. He's become one of the best tackling safeties in the NFL. He's become a legitimately great box safety, if you ask him to be. He can play the slot. He can play free safety. He's a versatile chess piece that can do so many different things. He can erase parts of the field that you don't even see on until you turn on the All-22 tape. He's a great, rangy free safety. It's the ball hawking that needs to come back. That's the big thing for him. But undeniably to me, if you turn on the tape and you watch Minkah Fitzpatrick's 2024 season, he is an eraser of areas of the football field, and he has a range that few in the league have. It's just where can you get the ball production back? So undoubtedly a great player, but in order to be kind of worth his price tag, you need the playmaking, but still a very good player no matter what.
I agree there. Now, a big part of what Minkah Fitzpatrick hopes to change this year is the Steelers secondary as a whole and the problems that came with it. We talked about this with him because he spoke after Steelers practice on Tuesday, and I wanted to ask him questions about the secondary, the communication. If you remember, Deshaun Elliott was saying after, towards the end of the season, guys can't be wide, bleeping and open. We talked about that in the show then. And that was definitely a big note on the Steelers secondary, where the communication breakdowns that happened and left guys wide, bleeping open. But Minkah Fitzpatrick, I thought it was interesting the way that he talked about it. He talked about there can be no gray. There can be no times where the Steelers are disagreeing about what's the right call in the right situation or the right adjustment that they're making. And I thought there were some very interesting answers he gave here in the questions that we gave him on that, as well as on their new secondary coach, Gerald Alexander. We'll go to Minkah Fitzpatrick here from Steelers OTA.
Gerald Alexander's back with you guys. What does he bring to the table? Gerald Alexander's back with you guys. You guys had worked with him before. What does he bring to the table now as the head DB's coach?
Yeah, I think he brings a lot of passion. He brings a lot of knowledge. He's a guy who's played the game, so he doesn't just know the X's and O's of the playbook. He knows the ins and outs of the game. He knows how to put us in position to not just execute our playbook, but to make plays.
Minkah, what's the value to having a guy like Slay with his experience for you back there?
Yeah, I think a guy like that is extremely valuable. He's covering the side of the field, and when you have him in man-to-man or even in zone, you know that it's solid over there. You know what I'm saying? There's no leaning to one guy, especially when you got Joey on the other side. There's no real concerns out there. You know he's going to be in the right position. You know he's going to do his job at a high level. So you just play ball.
You guys talked a lot about communication last year and how it needed to improve. How do you shore that up or start to shore that up at this time of the season to make sure that that's something that never is a problem for you guys?
Leave no gray. Football, I think, should be black and white. There shouldn't be any in regards to execution, schematics. There should be no gray. So just be, this is how we're doing it. This is how we're going to communicate. If I give you a thumbs up, you give me a thumbs up back. If I give you a thumbs down, you give me a thumbs down back. And it's as simple as that. So when guys aren't doing it, it's establishing, this is what we're doing. And if you don't want to do it, then you ain't going to be here. You know what I'm saying? Or you're not going to be on the field. And really pressing down and instilling that in everybody.
Is that something that Gerald helps out with a lot with?
Oh yeah, 100%. Part of that passion that I was saying talking earlier about. He's passionate about the game, but he's passionate about execution. He's passionate about everybody being on the same page. And he's a guy that is going to enforce what he says. He's a guy that people respect. So at the end of the day, when he says something, we're all going to try and make it work.
What do you know about Juan Thornhill? What he can bring to you guys as a safety room this year?
Yeah, Juan is a guy. He has a lot of experience. He's done multiple things. In all the different places he's been, the two teams that he's been on. He's a splash guy, he's a rangy guy. Similar skill set to myself. So just having another guy like that out there on the field is another chess piece on our chessboard.
Minkah, these are volunteer OTAs. Why is it important for you to be here?
Because we're working, you know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, I think we'll get you better at playing football. What gets you to be a better football player is playing football. And it's hard to simulate that, whether you're in Florida, Vegas, California, and right now, they're playing football. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's Indy, whether it's 7 shots, whether it's 7-on-7, we're getting better. And I think it's hard to do that on your own.
So right there, Nick, there were a lot of things that Minkah Fitzpatrick covered, but I thought the really important part was there. He talked about, when I give a thumbs up, you need to give a thumbs up. When I say a thumbs down, you need to say a thumbs down, and vice versa. And talking about that need there, that was definitely present across the Steelers secondary, especially in the last month or so of the season, where you saw more and more communication breakdowns. They went from being like a middle of the league as far as passing yards per allowed type of defense to being in the bottom 7 teams in passing yards allowed. So how much do you think they can clean up this year? Because to be fair to them, they did have a lot of pieces from other directions that came from last year in their secondary. Cam Sutton came back from the Lions. Deshaun Elliott was a new piece, but Beanie Bishop was a new piece. Dante Jackson was a new piece this year. Sure, they've added Darius Slay. Juan Thornhill will be a new third safety, but there should be more familiarity. And I also think Gerald Alexander could make a big difference this year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it should be really seamless, to be quite honest with you. I mean, Darius Slay has been there, done that. He's an all-pro corner. I don't think that should be very hard. Juan Thornhill's been around the block now for a while as well. Granted, the guys that were blowing coverages last year were veterans. It wasn't like you were seeing a lot of the rookies blow. And so communication, I think the biggest thing about this time of year when we're talking about communication is understanding nonverbal cues, right? Because when you're on the road or even when you're at home, crowd noise is a real factor. And, if you're trying to signal even a push call, sometimes you can't hear each other. And so having that thumbs up, that thumbs down, just that nonverbal communication, it's so important to understand how each guy goes about confirming that, just understanding that, knowing their cues. That's how you communicate with one another. That's how you get the calls across the defense, especially in that back half of the line, right? Especially when you're talking about, safety positions, the slot, because the slot was a big issue for them last year. That's all about getting communication. So really the slot, strong safety, free safety, and the 2 inside backers. And then you could throw the dime backer in there when you're in dime. Really important to get those down. So I think Minkah's right on the mark here is you got to understand nonverbal cues. And if you give the thumbs up, I need a thumbs up back. And so all of that, whether it's you're kind of signal together, whether you're yelling at each other and you got to yell back and say, I got it or whatever, you need that communication. Because I think the Steelers not only had so much gray last year, I think sometimes they didn't even have any communication going on at times.
I think that was part of the issue there. But another thing that I think is also something that they can rectify is through their coach, and that's Gerald Alexander, the new DBs coach that they added this year. And he's not necessarily new; he was with the team back in 2023 and 2022. He was the assistant DBs coach under Grady Brown. And both Joey Porter Jr. and Minkah Fitzpatrick and Corey Trice, all three of them expressed like, hey, we liked him when he was here. So I thought it was interesting when he talked about his passion. I think that's something that Gerald Alexander is going to bring to the table. When you're at practice and you're watching him work, that guy is vocal. He is getting his point across. He is making sure if you make a mistake, he's letting you know right away. He's not correcting it in film. I mean, he will go over it then again too, but he is making sure that you are understanding every bit of what he is coaching for every situation. And if they can be sharper with that, and he's part of getting them sharper with that, that could make a big difference for the secondary.
It could. And listen, I think people sometimes overrate how much like the intensity matters, because Grady was a very more laid back kind of showed in the film room type of deal. But I do think when you're talking about communication, that's one of the areas where that actually matters, right? If you're not giving a thumbs up and you're kind of yelling out about that, that's a key thing. I even remember one time in practice today where, we were talking, I talked a little bit off to the side with Deshaun Jameson, who is one of the slot corner guys. And he was telling me, even if they kind of go through their plays in team periods, like Grady will just Grady wouldn't yell at them. But Gerald will. Like Gerald will yell at them like, I'm not hearing any, communication, or I'm not seeing it. When they come off the field, like that's the first thing he notes. I think that's kind of noticeable. Like you see the Steelers secondary, if you just watch them, they're kind of going through drills with that. They're focusing on that. So communication has been like the number one focus for the secondary. And so I think Gerald has been really the kind of push behind that, and he's enforcing it. And so keep an eye out for that, but I think it's definitely been a big part of it, and I think Gerald Alexander is a huge part of it.
Absolutely. We'll get more on that as the offseason goes along. But I do think that, like you said, Gerald Alexander, the new DBs coach, could be a difference maker for this unit. They already have veterans. They have all pro guys and Minkah Fitzpatrick and Darius Slay. And they have young guys who can take to those types of teachings and move them forward, like Beanie Bishop, Joey Porter Jr., Corey Trice. So lots to be intrigued about there. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the news that got everyone excited early in the morning and triggered the next day meme. That's, of course, Gabe Davis is coming for a visit with the Steelers this Thursday. We'll talk about that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I remind you, this show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. The NBA Finals are set to begin Thursday, June 5th, with the Indiana Pacers taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. There will be big action every night of the finals with big players and big chances for you to win on FanDuel. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live throughout the games. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever before to play smart and win big. With SGA, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams, the Thunder have dominated all season, but the Pacers have Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, and Benedict Mathurin, and they have been tough to beat. There's plenty of stars on both sides who produce big numbers, which give you big chances to win big and place big bets. And if you're new to FanDuel, you can win $200 in bonus bets if you hit on your first bet of $5 or more. It's a great deal to take advantage of throughout the NBA playoffs and in the NBA Finals. It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com today. If you're a new customer, you can place that first $5 bet and you'll win $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh. Nick, let's talk about Gabe Davis. Now, Adam Schefter broke the story as far as Gabe Davis. He's been scheduled to visit with the Steelers this Thursday, so tomorrow from this show. And he's, of course, a free agent wide receiver coming to the Steelers. And one thing that was kind of revealed was there's a good chance that he might take a vet minimum deal, or at least a very low money to sign deal on a 1-year contract, because he's still making about $11.5 million this upcoming season from the Jaguars because they let him go after a single season. Gabe Davis, a former 4th-round pick from the Bills, for a while was looking like a really good deep ball playmaker. Had 7 touchdowns, in 3 out of his first 4 years with the Bills. Fell off, had some injuries, only had 2 touchdowns and 239 yards last year with the Jaguars. But he does come to the Steelers at 26 years old. What's your opinion on the Steelers making the move to go get a Gabe Davis?
I mean, listen, I'm not a huge Gabe Davis guy. I think he struggles to separate at times. I do think the deep threat ball awareness is there. He's got some legit speed. He's kind of understands how to stack DBs. but he's a big-bodied blocker too. I think that's one thing that'll draw the Steelers to him is having that presence that can block and fill in the run game. Just it's so important in these types of offenses when you're running, whatever wide zone you're running, it matters. And when you have those condensed splits, it matters too. So I understand the rationale behind getting Gabe Davis. There's a few issues I have. He doesn't separate super well. I also wanted to mention I do like that he has solid hands in terms of drop rate. He has like this weird reputation, I feel like, around social media that he drops the ball a lot, but he doesn't really in terms of drop rate. I think he's very high. I think he's like 17th in the NFL over the past 3 years or something. I mean, he's pretty good in that regard. So he's got good hands, but he doesn't have great contested catch skills. He doesn't separate super well. He's got a somewhat limited route tree. So you're not getting like the wide receiver 2 solution here, but you are getting a contributor that could fill in holes in the offense at least. But I'm not sure this gets me giddy if I'm a Steelers fan personally. I do think it at least patches a little bit of the hole, but certainly I think it's not your like create all fill solution, Chris.
No, I'm right with you here in that he is not this guy who's going to break the game open. Like, he's a guy that can be a helping piece. He can be a part of the puzzle. To your point about contested catch rate, he caught 22.2% of his contested catches last year in the NFL. I think Gabe Davis, here's the thing, what he could be. If you're the Steelers and you get through all of offseason, training camp, nobody else is – no trades became available. Nobody else really presented themselves. Keenan Allen's gone. Amari Cooper's gone. And you're sitting there saying, we just need somebody else to add to the outside threat. Then I get Gabe Davis, because Gabe Davis does have that ability. He can still stretch the field. He can still be an outside wide receiver. But I don't think that what he does there is he changes the game entirely for you. I think he could be another piece. I think he can kind of be like what Mike Williams was last year in that they didn't use him enough, but he can catch the occasional deep ball. He can be a guy that when he's on the other side of the field, if he's left in one-on-one coverage and he runs a deep ball and you're saying, you know what, we're going to give this a shot, he could be a guy that comes down with that and that turns into a big play. But like you said, not a big route tree, not a sharp route runner. So when you look at Gabe Davis, I think there's still plenty that he still has to work on. But again, the whole reason they're even looking at this in the first place, right, is because the Steelers don't have the major depth at the wide receiver position as it stands right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. I know that some people have kind of called, I believe Matt Harmon kind of talked about Gabe Davis as a sacrificial X because he's like the guy that clears out everything. Like he runs those love for the game routes so often. I mean, he really does, but he digs, man. Like, you're going to get 150% of Gabe Davis when he's out there. He's going to try his all. He's going to give you his all. And I mean, you look at his like win rates this year on kind of deep balls. The deep balls are the ones, man. It's the deep ball, the post, the out routes. Like, it's all that route tree. But when you get into the slants and the comebacks and the digs, falls off a cliff. So the Steelers can definitely use him in those types of routes. I mean, that's really where they're going to live if you're a Z in this offense. And if you want to play X receiver and kind of move DK Metcalf around too a little bit in that regard, you can do that too. So Gabe Davis fits that at least to a degree. He's not going to change this offense, though. He's not going to fundamentally change their offense. And I think the other thing is the injury concern here. It is a little concerning, I think, that he was released with a failed physical designation.
Yeah.
He's coming off meniscus surgery. Usually that one is not too burdensome in terms of when you get the repair. It can be a prolonged process of repair. But where is he even at in the recovery process, right? If they signed him tomorrow, could he practice? I don't know. He visited the Giants and the 49ers, hasn't signed a deal yet, whether that was because of the injury or because he's waiting on a better opportunity where he feels like he can pop in a little more easily than those teams. We'll see. But this is also going to be part of this visit, is figuring out where he's at in this injury recovery process and if it is doable at this point in the year. So that's also got to be brought up in the discussion.
No, I think it does need to be brought up, and I think that's something the Steelers are probably bringing him to Pittsburgh to figure out. Like let's actually see how healthy this guy is and what we think of him, and if he's even worth the trouble of what you're going through. But again, I just think that's all stuff that they're kind of working on right now as far as how they're trying to figure out who's going to be their option. I think, like I said before, when we talked about potential trade options, and I've said for a while, I think right now the Steelers and Omar Khan, they're surveying the land. They're checking out who's out there and figuring out, okay, when it's time to make the move, we will then know what are all our investment possibilities. Do we want to spend a high draft pick to go get a really, really good playmaker? Do we want to spend a very low draft pick and get like a solid player from another team who we think can be a temporary boost for us? Do we want to just sign a free agent, call it a day, and say, hey, you know what, we're going to rock out with that guy. We'll address wide receiver again next year in free agency or, in the draft or whatever. But the bottom line is you got to understand who's available. And that's what, when they're bringing Gabe Davis in, I don't think it's a mistake that Gabe Davis is the guy they're bringing in first, because they want to see how healthy he is and see what actually went down there. So I think that's the bottom line.
I do too. I also will say they badly need an X, because Roman and Calvin aren't true X's, and
Right.
Robert Woods at this point in his career. DK, when you kind of look at how he's best utilized, obviously he's going to play X most of the time. But he can really get explosive when you get him opportunities behind the line of scrimmage on just manufactured touches, one. And then two, you can open him up in the slot to get slants, quick glances, all these kind of quick routes where he can house things with his yak ability. So having that X that can at least step in there and run those clear outs or be a threat at least to win on a deep ball or an out route, it is important, I think, to fully unlocking what DK Metcalf does. So I do want to bring that up as well if you're looking at this.
Absolutely. Lots to still go over there. I want to go back to the secondary. We'll do that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh. We got to talk about that slot coverage there. That's next here on the show. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Nick Farabaugh, breaking things down for you here on a Wednesday. Nick, let's go to the slot cornerback position, because I got a chance to talk with Beanie Bishop. He made time to speak with me about several different things. I got him talking about Gerald Alexander and where he wants to improve. Here was Beanie Bishop after the Steelers Tuesday OTAs practice.
Beanie, you got a whole year of experience, multiple interceptions. What was your outlook as far as how you wanted to prepare for this season?
Obviously, I wanted to go out there and make less mistakes, be able to go out there and play fast and, kind of be able to control the defense with communication. I know a lot of things that ran through me when Nick was on the field, so whether that's changing the blitzes, whether that's motion adjustments, pushing guys, alerting guys, wrapping the run fit and things like that, I wanted to be able to, have the communication down pat and also change my body in the offseason.
How did you change your body?
Just change my eating habits, cutting down body fat and things like that. So I'm going to be able to see how much body fat percentage I dropped in the offseason pretty soon.
Did you want to did you put on muscle with that, or you just get lighter?
I want to slim down, lose fat, and gain a little bit more muscle.
Gotcha.
And it all depends on how my frame is set up and things like that, as far as how much I want to weigh and what I'm comfortable playing at.
You were a pretty shifty guy that ran with several different types of players. You were making those kind of reads. How do you advance upon that? Like, how do you increase the intensity that you were able to bring last year?
It all goes into preparation. This offseason I was able to, I learned the defense, obviously my first year, but being able to take those next steps, like I said, in communication and, understanding what we're going to before, actually having the safety tell me, what we have to run and what we're playing on my side and things like that. So just being able to do that, it'll help me be able to play faster and obviously understand and look at other guys, not just our defense, look at the other niggas around the league, Teron Johnson, Mike Hilton and Kenny Moore, the top nickels. And I just, want to kind of look at their game and see what they do well and try to, put it into my game.
What's Gerald Alexander been like as a coach in your first few while working with him?
Man, he's great. He shoots it straightforward. He tells guys what he expects of us, and, he wants us to go out there and play fast. And I feel like a lot of guys are able to do that, and you're going to see we're going to be able to make more plays next year.
He's very vocal, it seems like. Like he's quick to let y'all know. He's like, get here, move there, I need that. Is that like a welcome sort of intensity that he brings?
Yeah, I love it. You know, one of my DB coaches when I was in college was like that, and you know, there was one of my favorite coaches. I had one of my best years there, you know, with him. So it's not something that I'm new to. You know, I actually like that type of coaching. You know, loud coach. You know, so you know what you're getting from day in and day out.
So there, Nick, you hear Beanie Bishop talking about a lot of different things, but I thought it was interesting. He talked about what he wanted to work on. He wanted to slim down so that he could bulk up and kind of make himself stronger there. But I think a big part of what Beanie just has to be part of is when they're doing all those checks and those switches, he needs to be ready to do them with them. And when we were talking about with Minkah Fitzpatrick, the thumbs up, thumbs down. Those type of switches on the field, he needs to be used to. If he can do those things, Nick, I think it goes a long way to making him a bigger part of the defense. And the Steelers brought in competition. Brandon Echols is going to be there. You know, they drafted a guy in Dante Kent. Not that he's, you know, a pressing guy for the slot cornerback position, but there's going to be guys there for him to compete with. And if Beanie Bishop is able to use his 1 year with the Steelers as an advantage, it could be something to make that competition interesting when we get to training camp.
Yeah, it's going to be something to watch. I do think Beanie, you know, is a player to watch in the fact that he had flashes last year, right? The picks against Aaron Rodgers, where the first one he just baited him, was an awesome play. I thought that you saw flashes of great playmaking. I also thought you saw flashes of where you're like, man, you wish you had, a guy that was there for a long time, and you just don't know if Beanie's going to be that yet. I think Beanie's inconsistencies man-to-man are a little alarming at times. We saw him bust a few zone coverages. The first one that really sticks out to me is when he left Kyle Pitts wide open in that Atlanta game. There were a few of them. So I do think communication is like the easiest way, right? Just clean up the mental errors and boom, you can trust him in zone coverage. Cool. He's a feisty kind of player that I think, you know, adding more muscle will help him in the tackling department, because I think he has generally good form and technique. I think sometimes he was just too small and fell off tackles at points last year. So adding more muscle should be able to help him there. So it's just going to be consistency with him, man. I really think that, man coverage consistency, really. But I'm not sure who else on the roster really you can trust in man-to-man in the slot anyways. And so they really kind of need Beanie to step up here and be something. Could you make Beanie the rundown nickel and then maybe Echols be the, slot in the passing downs? Maybe if they kind of look at that. But, Brandon Echols, I talked to him last week, told me that they haven't even broached him about slot work right now. So he's just an outside guy right now, it seems like. That feels like a break, kind of later on in training camp. They don't like where Beanie is and the other guys. They go and say, all right, Brandon, it's time. You're inserting yourself into the slot corner room. So we'll see. I think Beanie's got a chance here. You are right. They brought in Dante Kent. They have Deshaun Jameson, who I mentioned earlier. Sebastian Castro, the UDFA, is there as well. We'll see who can kind of emerge from that. But Beanie has a shot to really earn this as a full season to start. And so it's a really big year, really big off season here leading up to the season for Beanie Bishop.
It really is. I think if he gets it in camp, he could prove a lot. I covered Mike Hilton's rookie year and when he came up with the Steelers, and he was flying everywhere, doing everything. And if Beanie Bishop can do that kind of stuff, if he can be aggressive, he can work on talent. Yes, he's small. Yes, he's light, but so is Mike Hilton. And Mike Hilton found a way to be really effective in the box. And I think that where we saw things like you brought up, Beanie Bishop did have ball instincts and did have coverage instincts that could work in NFL games and help to create turnovers and be part of a scheme. Those things are the things that if you show that as a rookie, I'm intrigued to see what can you do as a veteran? How can you compound upon those skills and that knowledge and that understanding of the game? I think those are really good signs. And again, he's excited, just like everybody else is, that Gerald Alexander is a coach that's going to help them do that. If the Steelers can get things down, one thing I noticed, during the open filming part of practice was a time where the third string guys in the secondary were working on something, and they were trying to what looked like a disguised man coverage that was really zone. And Gerald Alexander was just like, no, that's not, I don't believe you. That doesn't look like man. You need to make it look like man. And it's stuff like that I think that if they're getting it down, because it's not just, hey, cover this guy, hey, cover that guy. It's, hey, we are setting this whole alignment up. The reason that you're over here is because we want them to think that this is cover 2 or cover 3, but it's really cover 4 or cover 1 or whatever it is in that play. And that's the kind of stuff that won't make an impact every time, but if you do it enough, it creates confusion. It creates hesitancy, and that's the stuff that can lead to sacks, and that can stuff to lead to pressures, and stuff that can lead to bad passes that get you opportunities to make big plays as a defense.
Right, and Beanie's going to have to focus on those little details. Listen, he was an undrafted free agent. You can only expect so much out of that guy. But, year 2, this is like the year for him, right? It's the big one for him. And so he's going to have to showcase he can do all of that. He's going to have to showcase he can be a great communicator. In the slot, I'm not sure how much people realize how different the slot is from outside, just out of the obvious things. Obviously, you blitz more. You got to be more active in the run game, of course. But the communication part of it, really, when you're outside, you're kind of just on an island. Like, you can focus on the guy in front of you for the most part. When you're in the slot, man, you got to be talking back. You got to be looking at 2 or 3 guys and making sure you have it. The communication part of the slot is so big. And Beanie, kind of in his second year now, understanding the playbook more, that's going to be a really big part for him just to kind of nail down. You talk about the disguises, another big part for him to nail down. I think he is so intriguing because we know he's a great athlete. Like, Beanie can run. Beanie can move. Like, Beanie's fluid. He's explosive. Like, he's a really good athlete. So if he can get the little details down, you can do a ton of really cool disguises with him, right? Because he can get from point A to point B fairly easily. He's just got a really good range. And I think that's the thing with Beanie is if you can get those details down and trust him a little bit more in man coverage, because I think his man-to-man technique last year was a little bit all over the place. Sometimes reps, other times he got absolutely crushed. So that consistency, I think, trusting him a little more will really allow them to kind of open the playbook out. We've talked about this before, Chris, where it's just like the slot's so important to your ability to disguise and do different things out of your nickel packages. Like, it is so huge. If you don't have a nickel you can trust, you're going to play vanilla all the time.
I think that's the thing here is they need someone reliable there. Will Beanie Bishop be that guy? We'll find out as we continue to look out through the season. He's Nick Farabaugh. I'm Chris Carter. Thanks so much for tuning into the Locked On Steelers podcast. Nick, let people know they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Yeah, you could follow me on Twitter at FarabaugHFB, Blue Sky at Nick Farabaugh. Make sure to follow those accounts. Make sure to read the stuff over at PennLive.com/Steelers. All the Steelers stuff is there. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Steelers Blitz on Penn Live.
Absolutely. He's Nick Farabaugh. I'm Chris Carter. You can find me as a writer at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all the social medias, all the same handles at Carter Critiques. Remember, working the Post-Gazette. You can find me here every day, Monday through Friday, on the Pittsburgh Steelers, talking here on the Locked On Steelers podcast on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Back tomorrow as we continue covering OTAs and Steelers practices right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.